Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving into a really big idea that's changing the game in education: inclusion. We're going to explore what it really takes to build a school where every single student feels like they truly, deeply belong. So, let's get into it.
All right, so here's the plan. First, we'll nail down what inclusive education actually means. Then, we'll look at the core beliefs that drive it. From there, we'll get practical with classroom strategies, zoom out to see the whole school approach, and finally, we'll wrap up with why all of this matters so much.
Seriously, just pause for a second and think about that. Imagine a school where every kid's unique background isn't just something to be managed, but is actually celebrated as the school's biggest asset. That's the goal we're digging into today.
And just so you know where we're getting all this great info, our guide for this entire explainer is the Manual of Best Practices for Inclusive Education. You can think of it as the blueprint for creating these amazing learning spaces.
Okay, so let's tackle that first big question. What is inclusive education? Because I can tell you right now, it's way more than just having kids with different needs sitting in the same four walls. It's a whole different way of thinking.
I really love the way this is worded. First, it's a process, which means it's an ongoing effort. You're never really done. It's also for all learners, not just some. But here's the kicker for me: reducing barriers. The whole point isn't to try and fix the student, it's to fix the system around the student.
And this chart, wow, it just perfectly clears up a really common mix-up. For the longest time, the idea was integration, trying to get a student to squeeze into a system that was already set in stone. Inclusion does a complete 180. It says, hey, let's change the system, the culture, the way we teach, so it's flexible enough for everybody. That's a massive difference.
So if that's what inclusion is, what are the beliefs that actually power it? What's the philosophy behind the practice? Because these guiding principles, they're not just, feel-good suggestions. They are the absolute foundation.
Let's just sit with these for a moment because they're so important. First up, the zero reject policy. That's a powerful promise, right? It means every kid gets to walk through the door, period. Next, the deep-seated belief that all students can learn. That's your starting point. Then we have education in the least restrictive environment, which basically means the default setting is the regular classroom with their friends. And then there's this huge mental shift. Focus on abilities, not disabilities. You build on what a kid can do. And finally, my favorite, valuing diversity as a resource. Every kid's unique story isn't a problem to solve, it's a gift that makes the whole class better.
And this quote from UNESCO really just puts a perfect bow on it. This isn't just about making schools better places for kids to learn. It's about building a fundamentally better, more accepting society, starting from the ground up. The things you learn in an inclusive classroom, those are lessons for life.
Okay, so the philosophy is down, the big ideas are there, but what does this actually look like on a random Tuesday morning when you're trying to teach math? Let's get practical and move into the classroom.
It really breaks down into a simple, clear game plan. Step 1, you figure out what each individual student actually needs. Step 2, you change the world around them. The classroom setup, the books, the tools. Step 3, you mix up your teaching style, because nobody learns in exactly the same way. And finally, step 4, you bring in technology and other support to close any gaps.
This table gives us some awesome real-world examples. Under the physical category, you've got things like ramps, sure, but also something as simple as flexible seating. For instructional, we're talking about things like having students help each other with peer tutoring, or teaching in a way that engages sight, sound, and touch. And for curricular, it means the actual stuff you're teaching can be tweaked, and the way you test kids can be changed to let them really show you what they know.
Now, one amazing, inspired teacher can move mountains, no doubt, but they can't do it all by themselves. For this to really stick, the entire school has to be on the same page. Because, let's be real, this is a total team sport.
And that really leads to the million-dollar question, doesn't it? Whose job is this anyway? Is it the special education teacher, the principal? The answer is, well, it's everybody.
Yeah, check this out. It's an entire ecosystem. Teachers are a huge piece of the puzzle, of course. They're on the front lines. But look who else is here. The school's leadership, the parents at home, and yep, even the other students. Every single part has to be working together for the whole thing to thrive.
Think of the school leadership as a kind of lighthouse. They're the ones setting the vision, that guiding light. They're the ones who find the resources and provide the training. And maybe most importantly, they empower their teachers, giving them the confidence and support to navigate the needs of every kid in their classroom.
And we absolutely cannot forget about the power of the other kids.
I mean, really. Fellow students are the ones who build the actual community day in and day out. When they're encouraged to be allies, to be friends, to see differences as cool, they create a culture of belonging that no official policy could ever hope to achieve.
Okay, so we've seen what it is, we've seen the principles, and we've seen the strategies. But let's bring it all home with the biggest question of all. Why? Why does all this work matter so much? What's the ripple effect?
Now this is the part that I think blows a lot of people's minds. Study after study shows that inclusive classrooms don't just help students with special needs, they help everybody. All students show more academic growth, they develop better social skills, and they build a much deeper sense of empathy. And it makes sense, right? When a teacher has to think of 3 different ways to explain a math problem, every single kid in that room benefits from that creativity.
And that's really the bottom line here. This isn't a zero-sum game where helping one student takes away from another. It's the opposite. When you create an environment that's supportive enough for your most vulnerable learners, you end up creating a better, richer learning environment for everyone. It's that classic idea, right? A rising tide lifts all boats.
So that's the thought we want to leave you with. This question goes way beyond school policy. It gets to the very heart of the kind of world we want to live in. Because when we get inclusion right, we're teaching kids the most important lesson there is, that the things that make us different aren't things that pull us apart. They're the very things that make our communities stronger, smarter, and just more human. Thanks so much for joining me.